Lloyd, Ruhl, aka MegaBlitzz. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the top 8 deck lists from Charlotte Regionals. I'm sure we're excited to go over these deck lists because, well, this Regionals was really entertaining to watch, truly. I had watched all of day 1, all of day 2, and then I watched all of Top Cut live on stream, and I really enjoyed myself, and it was really fun to be able to watch all these matches. I felt like there was a lot of good matches and just a lot of crazy things that were happening at this Regional. Well, before we jump into that 8th place deck list here, don't forget to leave a like, smash that subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. Alrighty, guys, let's jump right in to that 8th deck list. Alrighty, guys, and here we are with that 8th place deck list, Lost Tina. Now, if you guys have been watching my content for any period of time, more so than the last couple months, you all know that I'm a really big fan of Lost Tina. I've been playing it very often at competitive events, and I've always been a pretty big fan of Giratina V-Star, just as a card in general, playing with Arctina. But this list really caught my eye, and the reason it did is because it's playing Drapion. Now, Lost Tina doesn't have a horrible time into Mew, but it can be a little clunky and weird sometimes because you can only start Requiem once, and 280 doesn't quite get you there to KO your Mew VMAX, and they're able to like pick it up with sort of scenario and things of that nature. So you kind of put yourself in a position where you really need to follow up with that Sableye or a Cramorant to try to KO a Mew VMAX if your prize mapping looks 3-3. But I like the Drapion because it gives you a nice, easy, just soft counter right into Mew. You literally just go, if you're sitting in the Mew matchup, you're like, all right, you know, they get all set up, play the Mew VMAX, you're like, Nest Ball, Drapion, switch, attack. 3 prize cards. Like, and then you just follow up with Star Requiem. However, it's also good into Rapid Box because Wild Style not only calculates Fusion Strike, but it's Single Strike and Rapid Strike. So, I think Drapion was a really cool tech card going into this regional because Mew VMAX and Rapid Box were not crazy represented, but they were definitely there enough that you might want to think about it. But a lot of people also just played Spiritomb for that reason. I also really like the Avery in the list. I don't know if I would have cut Pokegear for it. I really enjoyed 2 copies of Pokegear in my list of Lost Tina, trying to find that chorus early on, or maybe that boss or Roxanne later on in the game was really nice. But you also kind of in a position where Pokegear is kind of the only card you can cut, really, because this list is already cutting a Water Energy for something else for that Drapion, so you don't really want to cut anything else, and you definitely want to at least have 2 Water Energies in the deck, and you don't want to go down to just 1 copy of Boss or down to 2 copies of Path. So having to cut Pokegear for Avery is definitely where you're going to have to go for that. Or you could just play the 3 Water Energies and then cut the Drapion and then just add in the Pokegear and the Avery that way is very possible. But very nicely done, 8th place here. Very cool deck. Definitely like the Drapion tech in this. I think it was very unique. Going into 7th place here, we got Roaring Moon. Now, Roaring Moon is one of those decks where it's kind of on the uprise lately. People are really starting to consider it as maybe a really good contender in the format because, well, Frenzy Gouging is a really, really good attack, and it's just so fast and so aggressive, and you're able to deal with, you know, Charizard EX, and able to deal with, you know, Mew VMAX, hitting that for weakness. You have weakness into Gardevoir, but you're able to take really big KOs on things like Rapid Box, able to just Frenzy Gouging the Urshifu VMAX or the Inteleon VMAX and take 3 prize cards, which is really, really nice. So being able to do the things that Miraidon wants to do, being fast and aggressive, but not quite having that very easily KO potential. The only way they can one-shot something most of the time that's so big like Charizard is you have to Raichu it. But this deck can do it just with Roaring Moon itself, just by Frenzy Gouging its attack. So I like the list for that reason. I like just Roaring Moon as a concept for that. But it's not quite the deck I would play to Charlotte, I feel like. But I felt like it was a good pick going into Charlotte. It's just not what I would have played. Things I like about the list, I like 3 Pokestop, and I like the 1 copy of Talon Store to try to find your 4 Steel Stone and your Ancient Boosted Energy capsules. And then, of course, Pokestop, for the same reasons Chien-Pao and stuff plays it, trying to find your Dark Patches, your Switches, and your Earthen Vessels, and your Switch cards, and all your other things to try to find and just churn through the deck as fast as you can, and possibly even getting some energies in the discard along the way to try to Dark Patch them on a little bit later. So I like this list. If I were to play Roaring Moon, I think this would be the list I go for. If I didn't play this list, it would be something where you're trying to attack with Greninja as well, and it'd be a little bit of a split difference there. But if you're going to be playing Roaring Moon, I definitely think this is the list you want to be going for. It definitely feels like this is probably not quite to the perfect 60, but I would definitely say our Skeleton 50 for sure. Maybe even Skeleton 55. And I love the Emergency Jelly in here. I think that was an incredibly smart include for this deck. Going in 6th place here, we got another Lost Tina. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this list for one particular reason. This is literally my exact 60 minus 1 card. If you were to take out the Spiritomb and go into another Water Energy, so you're playing 3 instead of 2, this is my exact Lost Tina 60. This is what I played literally to my locals yesterday. Literally Monday night, this is what I played. And I'll probably be continuing to playing that same 60 for the foreseeable future. Unless I go to some big regional, I need to tech for something like Mew or something else, then I might change the list up a little bit, but this is the 60 I'm playing, and it's kind of just the 60 we know. This is very similar to what John had played at Portland, and it's a really good, just very good 60. We kind of know what the Lost Tina like 58, 56 cards look like, so you only really have a little bit of room to wiggle around with Lost Tina. Moving into 5th place here, we got Lost Sablezard. Now, Lost Sablezard was a deck that I didn't really think was going to perform very well, but Alex Szymanski piloted this thing all the way to top 5, so very nicely done. It's a very unique deck, and I really like how it has that very early game pressure with Radiant Charizard playing that DTE and just really able to get things in the Lost Zone very quickly with Lost Vacuums and your Flower Selectings and your Choruses and stuff of that nature. And I love how it's got Technical Machine De-Evolution. I think that's a very cool card in Lost Box, because into Gardevoir matchups or into Charizard and stuff where they're trying to rare candy into things, you can just like Lost Mine, put a bunch of damage counters on stuff, and then follow it up a turn or two later with DM Evolution, and then just take a bunch of prize cards that way. So I like this. I think it was a very good counter pick to what was going on at Charlotte, you know, with just the Technical Machine De-Evolution, and I think with Drapion as well, and then people predicting that Lost Tina was going to be a really well-positioned deck. Jirachi was a really smart include as well. So very nicely done. Very cool to see Lost Sablezard just kind of show up. It always seems to just kind of squeak into day 2 or slide into top 16 or top 8 every now and again, just to be like, hey, I still exist. I'm still a good deck. And it is a good deck. I haven't tried Lost Sablezard yet, but I am definitely excited to take this 60 and pop it in the TCG Live and give it a go. Sliding into our top 4 here, we got Miraidon EX. Now, this seems to be the more common Miraidon EX that we've been seeing with the Peony and the more turbo-aggressive version. I don't play Miraidon all that often, but the times I have played Miraidon, I prefer the 2-2 line of Mareep and Flaffy, just as a more of a cautionary or more of a cushion thing, where it's like if I get one prized or one gets KO'd, I at least have a backup. But with this Peony version, you're not really trying to Dynamotor all that often. You're trying to hit really hard off your generators and hit multiple energies because it plays 14 energies in the deck, and you're trying to attack very early on with things like Iron Hands or just hit really big KOs with Raichu and things of that nature. And then, of course, you gotta have the Drapion tech in there because Miraidon's worst matchup is Mew. We all know it is, so you definitely gotta have the Drapion in there to be able to deal with that. And I like the experience share as well. Being able to move energies to other Pokemon once that other Pokemon gets KO'd, I think is really something important to note, because Miraidon sometimes has the tendency to just run out of gas and kind of just putter out and not really have much for the late game. But experience share gives you that option to be able to have a little bit more utility for the late game. So I definitely like to see experience share in the list, and I like to see Town Store in here as well to try to find that experience share. And Pokemon catchers are pretty spicy include. We definitely saw it on stream where they were playing against Alex Szymanski, and they peonied for two Pokemon catchers, and it was like roll the first one, whiff, roll the second one, hit it, and then won the game. I really would have been excited to see if he would have whiffed, what that game would have looked like, because, well, it was a really close game. Sliding into our third place here, we got Gardevoir EX. Gardevoir is still a contender in this format, even though Charizard EX hits for weakness, Roaring Moon hits for weakness, and even Lost Box is able to just put damage counters all over the place. But, you know, they got Jirachi, they got Manaphy and stuff, and, well, Gardevoir is still a really, really good position deck for many more regionals to come until rotation, when it loses Gardevoir, Shining Arcana Gardevoir more specifically, and Zacian V and things of that nature. But the things I like about Gardevoir is the fact that it is consistent. You're able to draw so many cards and really just dig through your deck, and you're able to just constantly be able to Iono your opponent and just give that constant hand disruption. And I feel like Gardevoir along with Lostina are just two decks that even if you're behind a couple prize cards, it is very easy for you to come back and win the game, which is why Gardevoir and Lostina have earned the nicknames comeback decks, in my opinion. And I definitely like to see Gardevoir showing up here. Going into our second place list, we got Charizard EX. Now, Charizard EX, a lot of people are saying it's best deck in format. People are saying Lostina's best deck in format. It's kind of going back and forth. And I will say, I am not quite on board with Charizard being best deck in format. I'm also not quite entirely on board with Lostina being best deck in format. If I'm being genuinely honest, I think it's kind of 50-50. I feel like Charizard has a really good chance to be best deck in format if it hits certain things and can kind of fire off on all cylinders and be able to remove Path to the Peak very easily. But Lostina also could be best deck in format because, well, sometimes you're able to just really steam off away and just take off with the game very early on with very quick early lost impacts, being able to get to 10 really quickly and be able to start Requiem and things of that nature. But there are times where Lostina bricks a little bit, and even though you have Chorus and Flower selectings, you still don't quite get there. So, for this list, I enjoy a lot of it. I'm so glad to see Radiant Charizard finally come back into Charizard EX. I felt like Radiant Charizard kind of got put off to the side for a bit, and people weren't really considering it anymore for an option in the deck, but I feel like Radiant Charizard's a really good late game attacker on a single prizer especially, and it scales with the game, just like later on the game goes, just like Charizard EX does. I will say, the Charmander split is not what I would prefer. I would prefer 3 Blazing Destruction Charmander and then the 60 HP Heat Tackle Charmander. I would say just get rid of the Ember one. I feel like that's kind of more my comfort pick, and I really, really think that the 100 HP Charmeleon is what you have to go with. I've played Charizard EX a couple times, and just too many times I've gotten burnt because I have the 90 HP Charmeleon and they're like, you know, Moonlight Shuriken, KO it on your bench. And I'm just like, oh. Now, you could say just go find Manaphy. Well, sometimes it gets prized or you can't get it that turn. But I like Rotom in the list. I like Mew in the list. I like the Arvins. And I like Technical Machine De-Evolution in here as well. Because in that mirror match, if you're able to just like hit another Charizard EX and then they hit it back and they can't KO it, you can just Technical Machine De-Evolution. You burn up a rare candy, and you take a prize card, which feels really nice. So, very nicely done here to second place with this Charizard EX deck. Going into first place, we have Lostina. Now, this Lostina list is very unique because they didn't consider Mew. They said, heck no, man, I ain't worried about no Drapions or Spiritomes. We're just going to go with the very basic whatever Pokemon we've been playing in Lostina lately, and then they put in an Avery as well. They managed to keep the 3 water energies in the deck, went to 4 switch cards, didn't play any switch or escape ropes, and I was like, that is wild. When I saw this list after regionals was done, I was like, that is insane. I definitely want to try it out. And just hearing the person that had played this, I believe their name is Vinny or Vinay or something. I think that's how it's pronounced. They they said that they didn't miss the switches or anything at all. They actually really preferred this list and this version, just playing the switch cards and stuff. And for those that might not have watched the regionals, especially the final match in particular, it went to a game 3, and in game 3, they had prized 3 Giratina Vs and still managed to come back and win. And I was like, dude, how in the world do you come back and win this game with 3 Giratina Vs in the prize cards? I was freaking out watching it. My girlfriend was freaking out watching it. Twitter was blowing up about it. The commentators were like, what is happening? And then he just kept it calm, cool, and collected. He's sitting there and he's flicking through the deck, checking his prize cards, and realizes there's no Giratina V and goes, I know what I need to do. I need to start taking KOs early with Cramorant, and that's what he did, and it was super cool to watch him play, and I definitely learned a lot just from watching that match as a Lost Tina player. So I definitely like this list, and I can't wait to try it out. It's very unique, not playing escape ropes or switches, going for heavy switch cards, heavy path instead, and I definitely want to try it out and see what he meant by not really missing the switches or escape ropes, and you don't really always need them. So I definitely want to try it out and see what happens. Alrighty guys, let's jump right in to that outro. Alrighty guys, and that's going to do it here for our top 8 deck lists at Charlotte Regionals. If you haven't yet, don't forget to leave a like, smash the subscribe button. I really would appreciate it. And it was really exciting and really cool just to go over these top 8 deck lists because it felt like the top 8 was pretty diverse with Lost Tina, Charizard, Miraidon, Gardevoir, Roaring Moon, and other decks. Lost Sablezard even showing up again was really, really cool to see. Alrighty guys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace!